The Lockley Tavern started as any other tavern, just a place for people to drink and share stories. However, the Lockley morphed into something else over time. Long gone were the lighthearted stories of damsels in distress and stopping a would-be robber. Now, the stories told here are much darker. The tavern has become a place for damsels who stayed in distress at the hands of things, and the people who found themselves at the hands of the robbers or other such monsters. I can't give you a specific address to find Lockley's as the location changes. You see, you don't find us. We find you. The tavern will make itself known to those in need of a drink and get their story into the open. I go by Locke, and I'm the bartender owner of this joint. I fix stiff drinks and listen to people's stories. Through my own experiences and what I've heard, I've learned a few things about what goes bump in the night, and I've decided to share the knowledge. Names of my patrons are not known and thus will not be shared. Continue at your own risk. Knowing what's out there may make you more susceptible. I'll begin with the least disarming story told to me so far. This is an introduction to my work. If this is too much for you, I suggest not proceeding. It was a typical night. I didn't know where I was, and I can't remember the last time I did. When my patrons come in, I don't ask about whereabouts, names, or any identifying information. I hardly talk at all. I was wiping down the countertop and ensuring cleanliness, as most customers can't relax enough to tell their story if they're focusing on grime. A young man came in looking slightly confused, as they usually do. He cautiously approached the bar and asked where he was. "Why, old friend, you're at Lockley's Tavern. What can I pour for you?" I greeted the man as I've greeted many before him. The man looked almost more confused, but mumbled out that he would have a Jack and Coke. I nodded and smiled at him. "Your usual, eh? Have you been?" I try to make the patrons feel welcomed and at ease. Sometimes in their state, it's easier to do so if you believe we have met before. He smiles a small, sad smile, glances at the name tag on my chest, and responds, "Well, Locke, not too good, but I doubt you'd believe me." I set his drink down in front of him and say, "Try me." His story began during the day. He woke up feeling as though he were being watched, a solid hour before his alarm usually went off. Looking around the room, he couldn't find anything, but the feeling persisted, so he chose to start his day early. Having a wash-up first thing off is off-putting when you feel like someone is taking a gander at your goods. Quickly getting dressed, he popped into the kitchen to grab a quick bite, but when he first rounded the corner into the room, he could have sworn he thought he saw something standing next to the fridge for a split second before he could actually focus on it. Blaming the vision on his sleep-addled brain, he quickly made coffee and his breakfast, though he had mentioned that he tried to not turn his back to the area where he saw the thing. He was already so on edge from the walk to the bus stop that when he got on the bus, he looked at everyone as if they were the ones staring. His day went on like this. Every so often, he would see a creature out of the corner of his eye, and constantly felt eyes on him. He told me that while he was freaked out and had anxiety all day because of this, things didn't take a turn for the worse until he got off of his bus stop after work. The sun was already down, and multiple streetlights leading home hadn't been working for a while. As soon as the bus pulled away from the curb, he felt he was in serious trouble. His fight-or-flight response kicked in, and he knew he needed to get out of there, but didn't know in what direction he should go. He looked around frantically for a clue, and that's when he spotted it. The creature was humanoid and covered in eyes from head to toe. All the eyes moved in different directions from each other. He called it just a plain old monster, but that's vague, and as someone who's seen it, we call it the Watcher. It feeds off your fear for however long it chooses, and then it kills you and adds your eyes to its collection. He told me that he immediately pivoted and ran in the opposite direction after he saw it, not looking back. He ran until he found a crowded place which just so happened to be a club. In a small, ashamed voice, he informed me that his hope was to lure the monster in there where it would hopefully choose a new victim. His plan seemed to have worked as he no longer had the constant feeling of being watched. Even still, he dared not go home. Instead, he just walked around all night hoping to never feel those eyes on him again. When finally up to the task of returning home, he did so, but no longer felt at ease there. A few restless nights go by, and then while reading the newspaper, he sees that a body of a woman who had gone missing a few nights before a club had been found. He sees that the body of a woman who had gone missing a few nights before at a club had been found. She had been torn apart, and her eyes were missing. He said that it was his fault for luring the monster into the club to hook a new victim, and that he hadn't been able to rest since. He had drunk 3 Jack and Cokes by the time he finished his story, and I gave him my condolences and assurances that he reacted in the only way he knew how to save his own life. This reassured him somehow, and he stated that he would like to go home. "You're free to leave any time, old friend. Be more mindful of your surroundings, and if you see the Watcher again, watch it first." I always try to give my patrons a bit of advice before they leave. Who knows if they remember it by the following day. After the man left, I wrote up a new sign and drew a crude picture of the Watcher and added it to my wall of bounties. You see, not only is my tavern for the lost and damaged, but it's also for the people who hunt the monsters. It's rare, but it happens. Every now and then, a survivor stumbles into my path, and they dispatched their would-be killer. At this, I offer them a new life and ask them to help stop the evil that exists out there. This is the Lockley Tavern, where our doors are always open and drinks constantly flowing for those in need of an ear to bend. And remember, my friends, if you ever feel like you are being watched, you probably are. Find the source before it finds you.